Hello, today we're going to have a study and we're going to see if God has a son, because this is primordial to our beliefs. If God doesn't have a son, then I shouldn't believe that Jesus Christ is God, because God cannot have a son. So we're going to go to the Old Testament and we're going to see clear the water that God does have a son. In other examples, we saw that God has a finger, just like God could walk, and the people saw God face to face because he became a man. So in this one, we're going to see how God has a son. So let's start. We're going to go here to start with, and we're going to go to Psalms 2:11, where it says, "Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling." And the next verse says, "Kiss the Son, lest he be angry and ye perish from the way when his wrath is kindled. But a little, blessed are all that put their trust in him." To put their trust in who? To put their trust in the Son. Because if not, the Lord will be angry with you if you don't trust the Son. So, this is Psalms 2:11. As we can see, this is not the New Testament, this is the Old Testament talking about it. Let's continue, and we're going to go to Ezekiel 21:10. Look what it says. "Shall we then make mirth or commandment of my son, as of my son?" And it says here, "as every tree." So what it says here is that they treated the son like he was just a simple branch of the tree, because nobody respects the son. You go to Ezekiel 21:10, "Shall we then make mirth, a commandment of my son, as every tree." So they treated the son like he was just a piece of tree. You know, that's what it was. But he still said he has a son. Very interestingly. It's Ezekiel 21:10. Let's go to Deuteronomy 7:4. This is what it says. "So from the following me, that they may serve," that "for they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled and destroy thee suddenly." Again, we see that God has a son. Not only that, we see the same thing here, of the Lord be kindled. You know, and if we look at 2:12, it says, "When his wrath is kindled but a little, blessed are all that put their trust in the Son." So we see Deuteronomy 7:4, and we see Psalms 2:11 having a correlation with each other. So God has a son, apparently. So we're going to continue here. I'm going to put you here, and we're going to see what it says here. It says, Proverbs 30, verse 4. "For who had ascended up into the heaven," or descended? So we know that Christ ascended from heaven and descended in the form of a man. "Who had gathered the wind in his fist?" As we know, only God can do this. And Christ actually was the one who in the sea stopped the winds when they were going very, very crazy, very nasty. It continues here. "Who had the wind in his fist? Who had bound the waters in his garment?" Only God can do this, obviously. "Who had established all the ends of the earth?" Only God can do this. And it says this. "What is his name, and what is his son's name, if that can tell?" So he's asking us, who did all this? We know this is God. And what is his son's name, if that can tell? So apparently God has a son. This is in Proverbs 34, because only God can do everything he just said here. We're going to continue, and we're going to go to Daniel 7:13, what it says. "I saw in the midnight of the vision," this is Daniel, "and behold, one like the Son of Man." Very interesting. "And he came to the Ancient of Days," this is the Father. So the Son came to the Father. And 7:14 says, "And they were giving dominion and glory and kingdom, that all peoples, languages shall serve him." This is the Son. "His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that won't be destroyed." So again, something that's everlasting can only be a property of God. So the Father here is telling us to bring the Son, because he gave him all the dominion. He gave him everything. So the Son is God. Not only that, but you know, this is a very interesting quote. We know that the Son of Man in the New Testament was Christ, and Christ claimed divinity, and we will go in another chapter for that, which is very interesting. But as we can see right now, God has a son. This is the important factor. So we're going to continue. As we can see, we're going to continue this, and this is what it says. Look, Daniel 3:25. He answered and said, Lo, I see. For the thing in Daniel was this, before I explain this, was that the three men were in the oven of fire. But Nebuchadnezzar the king was very mad at the followers of the real God. So he threw them all in the oven of fire. And what happened? Daniel 3:25. And he answered and said, Lo, I see four men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and have no hurt. And the form of the fourth one is like the Son of God. So again, we have confirmation from Nebuchadnezzar that God has a son. The fourth one was like the Son of God. Interestingly. So in correlation with the other verses that we read just right now, it's undeniable proof. Proverbs 8:23. I was set up from everlasting, from the beginning or ever the earth was. So the Son was set up from everlasting, from beginning the earth was. Continuing. This cannot be Solomon, obviously. He was not set up from everlasting. He was created. Proverbs 8:30 continues. That I was by him as one brought up with him, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing always before him. So again, he was by him as one brought up with him from everlasting. So we know that the dominion is everlasting, as we saw in Daniel 7:13 and 14. His dominion is going to be everlasting. So in correlation with Proverbs 8:30, it makes completely sense, because I was brought up with him, I was set up by him, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing always before him, and I was set up from the beginning or ever the world was. He was set up from everlasting. So God has a son. We continue in Proverbs 8:35, and it says this. For whoso findeth me, findeth life, and shall obtain the favor of the Lord. Interestingly, Proverbs chapter 30, and it was in verse 4, it was telling us that what is the son's name, and that can tell. And also in Psalms 2:12, it's telling us to kiss the Son, and to put our trust in him, so the Lord doesn't get mad with us. So God has a son. So how do we know that all this is true? We're going to go to the New Testament, as always, and we're going to check this out. Look what it says. Matthew 17:5. While he yet spake, a bright cloud, this is Christ speaking, a bright cloud overshadowed it, and them, sorry. And behold, a voice out of the cloud, which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am very well pleased. Hear ye him, because his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and this is the Son of God, Jesus Christ. So, it's clearer than water. There's evidence all over this is just a little bit, and this is evidence that God has a son. So, does God have a son? Absolutely yes. God has a son, and his name is Jesus Christ. And as we will know later on, he's not just the Son of God, he is God himself. Because if his dominion is everlasting, and all the nations and people, according to Daniel 7:13, were supposed to worship him, then he is the one. So that's good. And by the way, in Isaiah, it says in Isaiah chapter 9:6, it says that his name will be what? The Prince of Peace, the everlasting Father, the everlasting God. So we have confirmation that the Messiah was going to be God himself. But we won't get into that right now. This is the proof that you need. God has a son, and his name is Jesus Christ. And there's nothing wrong with God having a son. He can do whatever he wants. Alright? So don't tell God what to do. Just obey what God says. God has a son. So thank you very much for watching this video. And enjoy. Thanks.